Welcome. My name is Father Mark Toops, a priest of the Diocese of Houma Thibodeau, and I would like to welcome you today into a conversation of hope. It's a conversation of what God is doing in our diocese, a conversation about the people in Houma Thibodeau and our hunger for God and a desire to take the next step with Him. If that's you, and if that's why you're watching this video, I want to say welcome to a conversation of hope. Perhaps you have asked yourself about the strategic plan. Maybe you've heard information from the pulpit. Maybe you've watched a video, or perhaps you've simply been in natural conversation with people and they've mentioned the strategic plan. What is it? What is this thing that Bishop Fobb has provided for us? What is this thing that God is inviting us to? Well, it is what we have entitled it. It is Plans of Hope. And I have a lot of hope for our diocese. Bishop Fobb, in his pastoral letter this past Advent, mentioned that he is a man of hope. And there, in his pastoral letter, he shared with us that he's not a person of hope because he's an optimist or because, as a bishop, that's the right thing to do. He said he was a person of hope because he believed in God and the power of God and in the people of our diocese. There's a lot of wisdom there, because I too am a man of hope for those two very things. I also believe in God, and I really believe that the people of our diocese are hungry for more. And I also believe that we are at a historic time where God's desire and our desire are coming together in a way that we can all take that next step together, because we have a concrete plan for those things to happen. I know for some of us, when we hear the word strategic plan, you might think of a corporate process or a binder of goals and objectives. But perhaps one way for us to look at the strategic plan is to be reminded that we really received it from God. Those who were part of the planning process prayed as much as they wrote. We listened to God as much as we listened to people. We leaned into the hearts of the Trinity as much as we researched best practices across the country. What gives me hope with the strategic plan is that we discerned what God wanted to do and received it from Him. The plan is very intentional. It's not trying to solve all the problems of the world, nor we in the strategic plan trying to fix maybe everything that people see that's out there. We have a very intentional focus to help the people of our diocese grow in their relationship with God and their identity as a disciple. So you might say that it's strategic in that it has a tight focus, has a very specific intent. Those intentional and well-discerned goals and objectives are trying to help us with something very specific, and that is renewing our parishes by forming disciples. Where do we get the language? Why discipleship? Well, we get that language of discipleship because the fact that Jesus founded the church, I think we could all agree that the church, the Roman Catholic Church, doesn't belong to any single person except the person of Jesus Christ. He's the one who founded it, and if He's the one who founded the church, then that means that not only does the church belong to Jesus, but so too does your parish. And while your neighboring parish might have a different name on the outside of, and while the parishes next to you might have a different name on the sign, every one of the parishes in the Diocese of Houma Thibodeau belongs to Jesus. It's Jesus' church. It's Jesus' parish, and that means it's Jesus' mission. The mission statement of Jesus' church and Jesus' parish was given to us not at the last pastoral council meeting you went to, but in Matthew chapter 28, as He said, "Go and make disciples of all nations." Jesus has given us the mission to make disciples. But to do that, we have to be honest about where we do that and who's involved. And we do that in parishes. It's where people live. It's where people worship. There's no renewal of the church without the renewal of parishes. And there's no renewal of our diocese unless there's the renewal of parishes. You might say that the strategic plan is about our parishes. The strategic plan is about people. Let's get to know some of the people that are in the pew. Let's get to know some of the people that we're trying to help in the strategic plan. If you want to understand what all those goals and objectives are about, or if we want to understand what God wants to do in the strategic plan, let's get to know the people that I know you know. Today, let's get to know Jane. You know Jane, because Jane's in your parish. Jane's 44 years old. Her parents are pillars of the community. Mom and Dad have been faithful members of the pastoral council. They were founding members of the fair back in the day. Jane herself has always been involved in the church. She was active in the youth group and actually thought about one day coming back after college and being a leader in the youth group. Jane, like so many others her age and so many others from South Louisiana, went to college. And when she got to college, there was what we call the slow fade. Just kind of slowly get caught up in life. And slowly Jane just kind of got caught up in college and study and missed Mass one Sunday. And 2 months later just got distracted and missed Mass another Sunday. And as Jane goes to college and her world is expanding and her horizons are getting ever broader, she begins to see lots of things in life, and her faith just kind of slowly atrophies. We call it the slow fade, and the next thing Jane feels is that she's on the treadmill of life. You've been on the treadmill, haven't you? The treadmill where you're working real hard and moving real fast, but don't really feel like you're going anywhere significant in life. See, Jane's a fictitious story, but we all know Jane, don't we? Jane's been married 10 years. She's got 2 kids. And as she tucks them into bed at night, she hears questions from her kids. Mommy, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Mommy, why does God give us belly buttons? Mommy, why do you go to church and Daddy doesn't? Mommy, why? Jane wants to be the best mom she can be, but her kids have great questions. And as she is raising her kids, wanting to be the best mother she can be and remembering the stability of the home that she came from, Jane's hungry. She's searching. She's asking great questions about life and the privilege of being a mother and how to raise her kids. But she's also searching for more in her marriage, in her professional life. She's searching for more out of life in general. The question is, right now, if we take an honest look at our parishes, what are we doing to intentionally help Jane recognize what she's really searching for? I know that our parishes are doing lots of things, but if we were going to take an honest and very sober look at what we're doing with all the energy and the resources we have, the word intentional is very intentionally placed there. Really, if we're honest with ourselves, we all know that Jane's in the pew, but are we intentional about helping Jane? And imagine if we were. Imagine if we could help Jane name what she was looking for. Imagine if we could help Jane take that next step in life. Imagine if Jane didn't have to ask the questions all alone, but we were there, and Jane knew that her parish was designed to help people like her. Imagine with me today if every one of the Janes out there was able to name what she was searching for. Because here's the good news about the strategic plan. We have a plan for Jane, but we just need your help. Jane's in your parish. She's in your pew. We can help you. You help us identify who Jane is, and we can help you help Jane take the next step. You see, we have a plan for Jane. I want you to meet Antonio today. You know Antonio. Antonio is 21 years old, and Antonio went to 12 years of Catholic school. And although he attended Catholic school, he was more there out of obedience than engagement. He participated in all the functions of the school exteriorly, but didn't really engage with the formation or the teaching interiorly. He went through confirmation. He kind of endured confirmation, but he had lots of questions. He had questions, natural questions, great questions that a lot of teenagers his age ask. Questions like same-sex marriage, or questions about contraception, or questions about end-of-life stuff, just all the things that are naturally there on the History Channel or on CNN, and all the things that are in conversation with teenagers his age. Every one of those questions has an answer. However, he's just plugged in. He's plugged into his smartphone. He's plugged into his iPad, his tablet, and all the apps that go with it. He's plugged in to a world that gives him instantaneous, quote-unquote, answers to his questions. But he never found those in the classroom or in the parish. He graduated and is now in college, and of course, we know what's going to happen next, right? He begins to meet other people from other faiths, and they ask him, Antonio, why do Catholics do the same thing every Sunday? Why do Catholics sit, stand, and kneel? Why do Catholics put ashes on their forehead for Lent? Why do Catholics believe what they believe about same-sex marriage or divorce or the Eucharist or whatever it was? And Antonio doesn't know the answers. He doesn't know the answers because nobody really gave him the answers to his questions, and he didn't really engage. And so Antonio has left the Catholic Church. He's going to another church somewhere else, a non-denominational church or another mainstream Christian church, but he's left the Catholic Church, and the best that his parents can hold on to is, well, at least he's going to church somewhere. Now, you know Antonio. The question is, what are we doing to intentionally help teens like Antonio learn more in the midst of their questions? And those questions are in the midst of their real life. It's not about helping Antonio. It's like, what are we doing to intentionally help him? Do we know him? Do we know his questions? We're taking time to answer them. What are we doing to intentionally help Antonio? Because imagine if we did. See, Antonio, he's in your family, I bet. He's in certainly the family of the people that you know. And just imagine if we were intentional about helping Antonio. Imagine if there were renewal in our Catholic schools, renewal in our youth ministry. Imagine if all the teens, and there are a lot of them like Antonio, imagine if we were able to help him with his questions. You see, we have a plan for Antonio, but we need your help. He's in your parish. He's in your pew. We can help you help Antonio. You see, we have a plan for him. Meet Natalie. Natalie, just like all the other examples, is kind of fictitious, but you know Natalie, don't you? Natalie is 65 years old. She grew up in Atlanta, and she grew up in the Southern Baptist tradition. She married Leonard, because Leonard's from Bayou Terrebonne, and he got a job in the oil field. She came back to South Louisiana after they were married. And they're happily married, split on Sundays. She goes to the Southern Baptist Church, and he goes to the Catholic Church. Natalie is passionate about the Word of God. She's passionate about the Scriptures, and she leads a Bible study at her church. One year, she gets invited to a Seder meal, a Passover meal, during Holy Week at her husband's church, her husband's Catholic church at the parish. She's fascinated with this Seder meal because she is viewing the rich history of the church and the rich scriptures that are behind some ancient ritual. She goes to the Holy Thursday Mass of the Lord's Supper. She's intrigued on Good Friday with the ritual and the kissing of the cross. She's blown away on the Easter Vigil with all the pageantry and the ritual and the lights and the candles. And it was there that those who were in RCIA were fully initiated in the church. And she was drawn by the pageantry of the oil and the confirmation, the sponsors, the prayer. And she begins a kind of an informal one-year inquiry about the Catholic faith and beginning to ask her husband more questions and begins to get to know some of the parishioners. And at the end of that 1 year, she says to herself, I think I want to become Catholic. Natalie enters RCIA and she loves the process. She loves the history. She feels alive in her faith. She gets to know the parish more, and she's somewhat annoyed with the factions in the parish, but she understands that that's just the humanity of the church. She has a great anticipation for the Easter Vigil, and she's beginning to ask a lot of questions about what's next. What's after RCIA? How can I continue to grow? After Easter, it's difficult because she can't find her niche in the parish. It was easy to get involved in RCIA, but what she really wants is to grow in her relationship with the Lord. She wants somebody to tell her what's the next step in the spiritual life. She's asking questions about how to become a more effective disciple, and the best that people give her is, well, just get involved. Become a Eucharistic minister. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not where she is. She's hungry for something very specific, which is ongoing spiritual formation, and no one makes that real easy. No one in the parish seems to know how to take the next step, and the structures, the programming, the ministries in the parish aren't really designed to help people take the next step as much as just to help people get involved. And she's asking over and over and over and over and over, and no one can help her take the next step. So 2 years later, Natalie's no longer at Mass, and she's back in the church that she started with. My question is, what are we doing to intentionally help newly initiated Catholics become fully integrated and fully active parishioners? In other words, if the best that we can offer someone who went through RCIA is become a Eucharistic minister, again, there's nothing wrong with that service. But if that's the best we can offer, then no wonder I have seen so many people like Natalie after the Easter Vigil no longer remain fully active, fully alive parishioners in the church. Natalie. Now imagine if we were intentional about helping Natalie. Imagine if when she asked, hey, what's the next step? Imagine if we had an answer. You see, we have a plan for her, but we need your help. You know her. She's in your pew. She's in your parish. And we can help you help Natalie. The strategic plan. You see, we have a plan for Natalie. I want you to meet Bryce. Now, you know Bryce, right? Bryce is the typical South Louisiana guy. He's 33 years old, and he grew up Catholic. He's very athletic and is an outdoors kind of guy. Now, look, I say this with great love and affection for anyone who's in the ministry, but Bryce endured CCD. He didn't really learn much. He was never really connected to his lifestyle, and after confirmation, he stops going to Mass and going to religion, and he just kind of stops after confirmation. Bryce is living a secular lifestyle. He's living for the weekend, anticipating vacation. Bryce is a man who loves to be stimulated and engaged in the big picture and the world. And Bryce is just kind of going through life. He meets Julie. She captivates his heart, and they eventually get engaged. God bless Julie. And they're in marriage prep, and And he's going back to Mass. And Bryce loves Julie, and he's always been open. He just wants somebody to give him the truth. He wants a message. He wants to know that there's direction in life. He knows that there are rules of engagement when you're hunting or fishing. He knows that there are things you can and cannot do out there in the athletic world. And he understands that even in the spiritual life, that there are 10 commandments and things that you can and cannot do. And he doesn't want it sugar-coated. He wants somebody to tell him the truth. He wants a message. And he's open. And every Sunday, he walks into church and he is open. But he has no real concept of the Mass. He doesn't really understand anything about the Eucharist because he never learned it in CCD. And Bryce sits Sunday after Sunday and he endures homilies. For some reason, at his church, the homily has to be 8 minutes or 10 minutes. There's this time cap on it. And instead of speaking to Bryce's heart, the homily fits into a box. It's not speaking to his heart, and he's longing for more. And it's going to be the homily that grabs his heart. And my question is, what are we really doing to intentionally help Bryce, who is open? But Bryce is going to have to be met in the homily with a message if he's going to be brought anywhere else. Bryce needs good preaching to grab him. My question is, what are we doing intentionally to help the quality of preaching in our diocese and to help Bryce, who's open? Meet Bryce, because you know him, don't you? Imagine if we were intentional about helping Bryce. Here's good news. I know Bryce and you know Bryce. And we have a plan for Bryce. We need your help, though. Bryce is in your pew. He's listening to the same homilies you are. But if we're going to help Bryce, we need your help. But we have a plan for Bryce. I want you to meet Father Mike. Father Mike could be anybody. Again, he, just like all these other examples, is fictitious, but we kind of know, quote unquote, Father Mike, don't we? He's been ordained 20 years. He's in a second pastorate, so this is a second parish where he's been a pastor. People would describe him as happy. They would describe him as present to the parish. And, he's not going to really challenge the parish secretary or that one person in the parish who, is that one person in the parish who needs to be challenged. But he's non-confrontational, and people would say he's doing the best he can. Father Mike has noticed that Mass attendance is slowly declining. He has noticed that there's a slow exodus of young families from the parish. Father Mike wonders, how can I make a difference? He wants to help those young families who are no longer coming to Mass. He wants to help the people who are going to other churches. He wants to, but just doesn't know how. And the things that keep him up at night are how to make a difference. But he feels isolated in that question. Doesn't feel like the pastoral center is really helping him. Doesn't feel like everything is designed to help him succeed. And he wants to be helped. He wants somebody to show him how to preach better or how to be more effective in evangelization. Meet Father Mike. And imagine if we were intentional about helping Father Mike. Imagine if Father Mike had help with his homilies or had help in the parish. Imagine if Father Mike weren't burdened with the things that he's not good at and were able to do the things that he is good at. Imagine if we were intentional about making those things happen. Now here's the good news. The strategic plan, we have a plan for Father Mike. But we need your help so that we can help Father Mike. And finally, I want you to meet St. Agnes Parish. Of course, St. Agnes doesn't exist in our diocese, but St. Agnes exists in our diocese. St. Agnes is a mid-sized parish, quote-unquote, not far from town. St. Agnes sits about 700 people at Mass every weekend. 20 years ago, St. Agnes sat about 1,300 on the weekend. People at St. Agnes pride themselves on community, and they have a rich history, and there's a lot to be proud of. St. Agnes has a core group of really committed parishioners. St. Agnes has strong leadership in that core. However, the lay leadership from the parishioners, that median age is about 65 years old. People say all the time, the same people will always say yes. They're asking, where's the younger generation? Who's gonna be the next generation of leaders in the parish? There are a lot of younger people in the pew, but few of the quote-unquote younger generation are involved. It's hard to get new volunteers. The buildings, the property, the whole plant, the facilities are aging. School at St. Agnes has lower enrollment. A lot of the parishioners are worried about the finances. They want to do more, but they would need more revenue and they would need more volunteers. St. Agnes, what are we doing to intentionally help St. Agnes meet the needs of the parishioners now, especially with the different desires and expectations that the quote-unquote older parishioners have, which are very different than the expectations of the younger parishioners? And how are we going to help them intentionally with finances and volunteerism? We can say we're helping them, but what are we intentionally doing? Because a lot of us know St. Agnes, don't we? And imagine if we could help that parish, your parish. Imagine if we were intentional about helping St. Agnes. Because you see, the strategic plan is about St. Agnes. And we have a plan for St. Agnes. But we need your help. The strategic plan is about Jane, Antonio, Natalie, Bryce, Father Mike, and St. Agnes. The strategic plan is about helping them. We have a plan to help people just like them who are in your parish. We have a plan to help them, those people who need help, people in the pew. The strategic plan is 63 well-crafted goals to help people, 63 well-researched goals that are designed to help the people in the pew. The strategic plan, we have a plan for adults to help them grow in their faith, for our youth to help them, just like Antonio and Bryce. We have a plan for our schools. We have a plan to help our priests and deacons. We have a plan to help preaching and Sunday, and we have plans to help get more volunteers and to increase stewardship. We have a plan to support the parishes. We have a plan to help people. If you'd like to learn more about the strategic plan, go to our website, www.htdiocese.org, to learn more. And most importantly, pray for the success of the strategic plan. Pray for the people of our diocese. And pray that your hearts, like the hearts of so many, would be a heart that is filled with hope. God bless you.